Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Jazakallah everyone for attending. Today we have a very special guest speaker with us on the topic of evolution and atheism. So, Brother Subboor Ahmad, he is a speaker from IERA. He specializes in arguments for God existence and also tackles issues such as atheism and evolution. You can find a lot of his content on YouTube, and he's also known for being, a well-known debater online, and also you can find a lot of his content that he does at Hyde Park and various other places, inshallah. So we're going to have a talk, and then after that, inshallah, there will be a lot of, I know there's going to be a lot of questions, so we'll have a lot of time for Q&A as well, inshallah. So without any further ado.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. I want to start off with a story. So I want you to actually imagine this story, because this is something which you'll only enjoy if you've been through something like this, or if you know somebody that's been through a situation like this before. So imagine you move out of High Wycombe and you move to Oxford. And when you've moved to Oxford, you're really happy, you have a brand new house, you're newly married, and you have everything, you have your new job, you have everything, right? So you're in this new place, you're enjoying this new environment, you spend the whole weekend fixing up the house, taking stuff from High Wycombe, taking it to Oxford, putting all the shelves up, getting everything ready. Monday, you need to go to work. So Sunday night, as your packing is finished, as all your friends have come over and gone, as you're about to start your new life in this house, you look out the window and this is what you see. The next door neighbor has the world's scariest looking dog. It actually looks like a beast, something from maybe a science fiction story. You can see in the dark that this thing looks pretty damn scary. So what you do, you tell your wife, okay, I really don't like dogs. I'm actually really scared of dogs. I hope, this thing doesn't bite me. So what do? Monday morning, you wear your suit, you get ready, you open the door. As you open the door, you walk out, you hear the dog barking, you get scared, you run back in. Think to yourself, what am I going to do? This dog is scary and it's not even on a leash. So what you do, you wait a little while, you think, okay, I might be late for work, I'll just ring them, say to them, not feeling too well, is it okay if I come in a bit later, I've just got an issue I'm dealing with. Do that, yeah, fine, I'll come in at 12. 11 o'clock, you decide, open up the door, try and go out, the dog starts barking, you run back in. Think, what am I going to do? So you ring your boss again, you say, do you know what, I'm really, really sorry, I can't come in today, not feeling it, I've just got some issue I'm dealing with, can I please come in tomorrow? Your boss is like, you already took off so many days for your holiday, this is very unprofessional, make sure you're at work tomorrow and you also need to do overtime. So you're like, okay, fine. The next day, you wake up in the morning, you get ready, you play a halal version of The Eye of the Tiger, you think, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to walk in front of this dog, I don't care what it does. And that day, you open the door, you walk out, the dog comes, you run back in. And as you run back in, the dog barks so loud that actually, you think you can feel your heartbeat. That's how loud he actually barks. And you're actually literally shaken by this dog. So what you do, being the brave man that you are, you ask your missus to go to the back garden, maybe speak to the neighbor's wife, try and ask the guy to put the dog on a leash or something so that you can actually walk out your house. And your wife says, what's wrong with you? Are you a kid? It's just a dog. There's dogs all over the country. What are you worried about this for? Anyway, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every single day the same thing happens. Till on Friday your boss says, do you know what? You're sacked. You're actually sacked. Your job is gone. Your wife says, I'm going off to my mum's. I don't care about the dog. So she walks out of the house, you're left in the house alone. The whole weekend you're so frightened You refuse to leave the house. And since you refuse to leave the house, you're hungry. And what are you going to do for food? There's nothing to do. So what you decide to do is you decide to order a pizza. And as you decide to order the pizza man comes to the door, knocks on the door, you open the door, and the dog comes running in towards you, you shut the door, and you say, leave the pizza, you just shout at him, you pass the money through a letterbox, and you go hungry that weekend. Imagine on Monday, you have lack of sleep, you just lost your job, your wife thinks you're a coward, your other friends are mocking you, you're hungry, you're tired. Monday morning, you think, do you know what? I don't care anymore. I just don't care anymore. I'm going to walk out there and I don't care what that dog does to me. You walk out the house, the dog comes running, you get scared, you close your eyes, he bites you. The dog's got no teeth. You just lost your job, lost your wife, lost your self-credibility, lost your sleep over a dog that doesn't even have teeth. The reason why I'm sharing this story is because this is the only way I can explain the experience that some people go through unnecessarily when it comes to atheism, evolution, God, science. They get so scared. Oh my God, it's all this stuff on the internet, there's all these articles, there's this happening and that happening. And they think their iman is being affected by these things, when it's literally harmless. It's literally nothing. People are losing their sleep over nothing, and people are getting worried over nothing. I had a really strange experience. I wish I could show the message that we actually received. There was this guy who contacted IERA, and he was like, this is when the Higgs boson, this thing that they call the God particle, was discovered. He contacted IERA, and he was like, brothers, my iman is gone. My iman is gone. They discovered the God particle. He was shaken. He didn't know how to pray. Do you know why they called it a God particle? Does anyone know why they called it the God particle? There was a particular particle that physicists were looking for, and they couldn't find this particle, so they called it the goddamn particle. And over time, goddamn as in we can't find this particle, they decided to start calling it the God particle. That's what it was. And this guy claims he nearly lost his iman because of some article he read about the God particle. We contacted him, we said to him, bro, chill out. It's just a particle they discovered. What are you worried about? And the reason why I'm sharing these stories is because I've been involved in the field of dawah for a few years now, and I've seen this amongst our youth. I've seen this even amongst grown men in our community. I've seen this amongst Christians, amongst other people. They freak out over something which is so trivial. Now, I want to share something. 2017 now, I think this was 2010. I used to work here in High Wycombe. This used to be my local mosque. And in High Wycombe, I used to work near, I don't know if it's still there, Roosters. I didn't work in Roosters. I used to work near Roosters. So near Roosters, there used to be an internet cafe and a gaming shop. I don't know if it's still there. There you go. Someone's nodding. It's actually there. There's only one brother who actually knows about it. So I remember back in those days, internet wasn't really on your phone. Access to email and stuff like this, you'd basically have to go to internet cafes. We used to use internet cafes a lot back then. And I remember after work one day, I basically went over to the internet cafe and used the internet, checked some of my emails. And there was a guy who I used to see regularly because he owned that gaming shop, and I was also into games back then as well. So I went over to the counter, paid him for whatever, and then I said to him, just the conversation started going. He's quite a friendly guy. I said to him, do you believe in God? And he looked at me, and I still remember that look with those, that stare of certainty. He said, I believe in science. And it was such a weird response. It was such a weird response because I thought to myself, imagine if I ask you, do you believe in the moon? I just ask you a question. Do you believe the moon exists? And you reply, I don't like stamp collecting. Honestly. Now, that's actually the end of my lecture, because all the rest of this, what we're going to be doing from now on, is actually going to be, inshallah, one long conversation, because the only way we're going to get through this content is if you guys actually reply to me. The Q&A starts actually now. So, Bismillah. I believe in science, right? How many people have heard this before? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a lot of people. What on earth does that mean? Young man.
That some people, like, let's say that when the Big Bang happened, people don't refer as God's miracle, they refer to some chemical reactions.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
They believe that science and
Speak
religion,
louder, please.
They believe that science and religion can't go hand in hand.
They believe science and religion can't go hand in hand. Okay, good. Getting closer. Somebody else?
They believe that science has an explanation for everything and there's no longer a need for God.
Perfect. Wasif, right?
Yeah.
Wasif. Brother hit the nail on the head. They believe science explains everything. That's actually what they believe. So when they say, I believe in science, that's actually what they're saying. Now what I want to do is, I want to do a little experiment with you guys. Okay? So let's actually go through some beliefs. Plato. Okay? Ancient Greece. Plato. Okay, how many people here believe in Plato? Okay, some people didn't raise their hands. How many people believe in Genghis Khan? Okay, a lot more. Okay, fine. Forget Plato. Genghis Khan. Show to me, prove to me Genghis Khan exists using science. I'm going to enjoy my coffee until someone does it. Anyone? Try it. Prove to me Genghis Khan exists using science.
Carbon dated artifacts of Mongol weapons,
Okay.
skeletons
Yep.
in northern Iraq.
Sure. How do you know that's Genghis Khan and not Lady Gaga?
Recorded history.
Okay, recorded history, but that's not science. Good answer, but that's not science. You see, recorded history is not science. It's recorded history. So we know Genghis Khan exists, we know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ exists, we know that Isa al-Islam existed, we know that Aristotle existed, Plato existed, King Henry existed. This is not science, this is history. So if someone says, I believe in science, you have to basically deny all of history. And in fact, what you also have to deny is most of news. Because news is based on testimony. It's based on the say-so of others. So if someone says, I believe in science, you've wiped out the majority of the beliefs in your head. Because you can't prove them. Okay. Prove that you have 100 times great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. Using science. I'm going to enjoy my coffee until someone answers. Yes, young man?
DNA.
Okay. What about DNA? Where's your 100 times great-great-great-great-grandmother so you can go get her DNA? Where is she? You don't know? Trade?
Necessity, by necessity,
Yep.
must have been.
Okay, great. That's logic, not science. Science is based on logic. If you have, look, imagine there's a human brain. This is my brain, right? There's three ways that you know things. There's things which are innate, things that you know without any evidence, things that you just know to be true. For example, right and wrong exists. The world is real. This is innate. Two, you have reason, which is using logic. How do I know I have a grandmother, which is 100 times great-great-great-grandmother? I use logic. Underneath that, you have what's known as empiricism, which is using the senses. Science is a fusion of two of those systems. So when someone says, I believe in science, and they think that is a rational answer, they basically can't prove their grandmother existed, because they are denying logic. Okay, logic and maths, again. Can science prove 1 + 1 is 2? Okay, let me ask you another question. Can science prove mathematics?
Not really, no.
Why?
Because mathematics is a different section of learning. Science has nothing to do with 1 + 1 = 2.
Okay, you nearly got there. Yes?
Maths is based on logic.
Maths and logic, same thing. You actually said something very deep there. That's actually a very, very deep point. It is, yeah. Maths is considered pure logic. But science, yes?
Do maths and logic come underneath the banner of science? Because they're
Perfect. You can't do science unless you assume logic and maths. Okay?
Can I go back to this?
Sure.
You know, we guys I believe in science. If those who believe in science, why can't they believe in history as well?
They can, but
Why does it have to wipe out all this because of belief in science?
No.
You're saying,
there's a new movement across the world where people say, I believe in science. It's like they call it scientism.
right.
It's actually a movement across the world where people say, I will not believe in anything unless it's scientific. Okay, moral truths. Okay? Right and wrong. Can science prove it's right to give charity? Can science prove it's right to help the elderly? Can science prove it's wrong to steal copyrighted material? Can science do that? Yes or no? No? No answer? Everyone falling asleep? No, you can't. So if you say I believe in science, like I believe whatever science says, well, science has nothing to do with what's right and wrong. Okay, this is a big word, but it actually means something very, very simple. Physical, real physical. Metaphysical is anything beyond physics. Okay? So, the world is real. That's metaphysical. Wasif has a mind. He has a mind. That's metaphysical. Language and the truths of language and how do you know that logic works and all these types of things, this is metaphysics, it is not science. So if someone says, I believe in science, like, as an answer, they basically have to deny history, deny logic, deny mathematics, deny moral truths, deny metaphysical truths, which basically means they're only left with how many of their beliefs can be scientific? How many? Less than 1%. So 99% of what's in their brain when they say, I believe in science, goes out the window. In fact, what if somebody says, this is a curveball for you guys, what if somebody says, no, I can read stuff in a book. I can read a book of physics, I can read a book on evolution, I can read a book on chemistry. So I can know things. How can you show that that is incoherent?
That's the same with all religious
Not really.
people. As far as I think, we read a book, and we get information from a book.
Well, okay, let me put it another way. If someone says, I believe in science, like science is the way, and they say, I'm reading this book, and it's telling me what I need to know. What's the problem with that?
Just taking what is there at face value.
Yes, it's taking what's there at face value, which is called? Huh? Someone said it? Testimony. Excellent. Which is another type of knowledge. So, they haven't even done those experiments themselves. They haven't actually used science there. They've just believed what someone says. So this whole idea of I believe in science, when someone gives you a nonsensical answer, one of the first things you need to do is actually challenge what they're saying. By the way, I didn't say this to that guy. I'm just telling you. This is so that you know how to address somebody who believes, oh, I only believe in something because it's scientific. Because one of the things they're going to say is, I can't see God, therefore it's illogical to believe in God. But then the counter example you're going to give to that is, hang on, that's based on logic. You can use one of the avenues as logic. Okay. Like I mentioned, the dog without any teeth, science has absolutely nothing to do with atheism. This could not be clearer. One of the things which I found very strange when I started looking into Darwin's views and the views of contemporary evolutionary biologists such as Richard Dawkins, is Darwin would have disagreed with them. I believe if Charles Darwin was alive today, he would have completely disagreed with people like Richard Dawkins, who's an avid atheist, and other people, because in his writings, he makes it clear There is absolutely nothing in my theory which would lead anyone to become an atheist. In fact, he says, it seems to me absurd to doubt that a man may be an ardent theist and an evolutionist. Theist means someone who believes in God. He also says in another, and you can go to this project called Darwin Correspondence Project, where it's got Darwin's letters. And one of the things he says is that in my wildest extremes of fluctuations, I still never became an atheist. I still never denied God. He, all his life, was pretty much a deist. A deist is somebody who believes in God, but they don't believe in religion. Later on in life, because of the problem of evil, because of his daughter passing away, he became an agnostic. He became confused about God. But he was never an atheist. This is what it says in Scientific Method in Brief by Cambridge University. This is an academic book which teaches you the most fundamental foundations of science and the way it's actually applied. To insist that science obeys methodological naturalism and that science supports atheism is to get high marks for enthusiasm but low marks for logic. So forget what people say on YouTube, forget what people say in popular lectures, forget what a school teacher sometimes might try and intertwine between biology and disbelief in God and this sort of thing. Academically, there's no difference of opinion, there's no ikhtilaf here. Science has absolutely nothing to do with atheism. Literally absolutely nothing. In fact, and I think this is extremely important, because this is actually one of the projects which we're actually working on as IERA currently, which is a publication about the Islamic history of science. The first person, according to some secular historians who put a systematic method of science, was actually a Muslim who lived approximately 1,000 years ago. His name was Hassan ibn Haytham. He was a Quranic scholar, and he is considered by some as the first scientist. Now, his belief in Allah, his belief in the Quran, his belief in the Prophet ﷺ did not make him an atheist. It actually led him to studying science. So there's no link between science and atheism. And also this whole thing which people come up with, Yahmakallah, about science, in the Muslim world, it lasted 200-300 years and then it ended. Actually, there's quite a lot of evidence that it carried on all the way through the actual Ottoman period as well. So what we have to understand as Muslims is, for 1400 years of our history, we were either one of the world's superpowers or the world's superpower. Intellectually, philosophically, mathematically, in terms of art, whatever you want, militarily. We were that. Yes, we've had a bit of a slump since, for the last 80, 90 years. But we need to tell our young people this, because the impression that, especially certain people in the Western world try and create is that we've been in the dark ages for 1400 years, which is absolutely not true. Okay, the terms of engagement, when I'm going to be speaking about Darwinian evolution, is anybody I'm going to refer to today is not somebody who believes in creationism, intelligent design. They're going to be secular, mainstream. They're going to believe in naturalism, and it's going to be from mainstream peer-reviewed journals. Okay, science. When they say this is the scientific method, there's actually a whole bunch of methods which are the scientific method. So there's loads of them. But a simple, basic understanding of the scientific method is you have a hypothesis, you test out the hypothesis against observations, and then you repeatedly test it until you come up with a theory, and that theory then becomes like a paradigm, becomes like something which is generally accepted. Okay, actually the clue is here. Why doesn't science lead to certainty? It's all written there for you.
Because you can't test everything, you only test a certain, you have a certain set of stuff that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Not the whole picture, so to speak.
Yeah. Excellent. So, exactly like you said, you can't test everything, you can't know everything. You can only deal with what you have currently at hand. So a popular belief in Europe used to be that all swans are white. So imagine there's a scientist, there's a naturalist who is looking at swans. He sees 1,000 swans that he knows they're white. He notes 2,000 swans, he says, these are white. He notes 3,000 swans, and then he says, these are white too. So using that limited set of data, he makes a general conclusion. All swans are white. Now what actually happened is when European explorers went to Australia, they discovered a black swan. And that challenged the theory that all swans are white. This has been termed the problem of induction. It's also known as the black swan problem. In science, you can always have a new set of data which can challenge your previous conclusion. Secondly, scattergraph. Now, here's a scattergraph, and you've got some dots there. Those dots are observations. So, DNA, fossils, the length of a crocodile's tail, whatever. These are observations. These are things that we know to be true. How many different lines can you make using that same set of data? This is the answer time.
Whoever's interpreting it. You know.
Okay, somebody else, because you answered so many now, mashallah. Brother there next to the radiator, one about to fall asleep. How many lines can you draw? How many lines can you draw, bro? If you got this.
Draw as many as you like.
Draw as many as you like.
Scattered all over.
What do you mean by lines?
Lines of best fit, lines to try and fit the data. As Amjad Bhai said, you can draw as many lines as you want. You can make a line from the bottom, the bottom left to the top right, like a straight line. You can make a curve, you can make a sine curve, you can make an exponential thing. The same set of data can give rise to multiple theories. So science has two particular problems. In fact, no, you shouldn't call them problems. These are limitations which keep it in flux. Because the fact that scientific conclusions change is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. It's the beauty of science that we can always change its conclusions. It's the beauty of science that we can always revise what we know. So we have the black swan problem, and we have that the same set of data, the same set of observations can give rise to multiple theories. So for example, what doesn't change is things we can directly observe, these green dots. The shape of the earth, water is composed of hydrogen and oxygen, there's certain fossils which exist, DNA is a code. These are observations. Some people think this is science. No, it's not. These are just observations. You can use these observations to come up with what's known as astrology. What's astrology? Anybody know? What's astrology? Yes?
They're like universal studies.
Palm reading. Yeah, palm reading. You can say, I can observe this star is here, therefore next year this is going to happen, you know, this type of shirky stuff, right? This is astrology. Observations can be used for science, and they can be used for what's known as pseudoscience, fake science, right? So it's very, very important to understand when sometimes people say, science does lead to certainty, look, medicine works, or gravity exists, or the shape of the earth. This isn't science itself. These are observations which scientists use to come up with a scientific theory. Those observations on their own are just observations. They're just observations. This is very important to understand. Science is more than just observations. It's a method to take a hypothesis, test it against observations, and come up with theories. Something very, very important to understand, a common mistake a lot of people do is they say Darwin's theory is not scientific. Okay? It is scientific. Darwin's theory is a valid scientific model, theory, and paradigm. I'm going to explain why. Before I explain why, before I go into that, because I skipped a slide by accident, science has a particular assumption about the world, which is an assumption that they work on. So imagine there's somebody who walks into this mosque and he has a lab coat on and he has some goggles on. This lab coat and this these goggles that he's actually wearing, these are things which scientists have to do. They have to adopt a certain way of thinking about the world before they actually do science. And the assumption that they actually have is an assumption of naturalism. Okay, this is a very important term, naturalism. Naturalism basically means anything we are going to study, we're going to give a natural explanation. So for example, when it comes to human beings, we cannot accept that human beings appeared in the history of life without being linked to something else. They have to be linked to something else. Cause and effect, and only giving naturalistic accounts. So when a scientist comes up with assumptions, you always have to understand they're coming from that particular way of looking at the world. Now if a scientist, he takes off his lab coat, takes off his goggles, and then he takes his conclusions and he says these are true, this is when you have a problem. Because if you base views that you have constructed using an assumption, those views are never going to be absolutely true. They're always going to be based on that assumption. Okay, even the most ardent, hardcore proponents of Darwinian evolution, they admit to a very basic fact, which no one can deny, which is what I just mentioned previously about the philosophy of science. Richard Dawkins, he says, we must acknowledge the possibility that new facts may come to light which will force our successors of the 21st century to abandon Darwinism or modify it beyond recognition. Okay? Very important to understand. Even though the public persona of some of these people may be, yeah, it's true, religion's all rubbish, yeah, we got it all worked out, he himself, in his lesser known works, he admits to this. This is in his book, A Devil's Chaplain. Also, it's very important that he used the term Darwinism here. Because a lot of the times when you're actually using this term, people say to you, yeah, but you can't use that term. Who came up with that term? What is this term? It's actually an academic term. There's a difference between evolution and Darwinism. These are two different things. Evolution is one of the most confusing topics in the world because of the way that it can be defined as almost anything within evolutionary biology. This is why it's very, very important that if you are to have a discussion with somebody about this topic, you define what you mean. Evolution, in terms of its basic meaning, simply means change over time, biological change over time. And this has been written about, philosophized about, theorized about, speculated about for at least 3,000 years of human history. Evolution as an idea did not start with Darwin. Even some of the medieval Muslim scientists spoke about it, the ancient Hindus spoke about it, the ancient Chinese spoke about it, the Greeks spoke about it, the Egyptians spoke about it, the Babylonians spoke about it. So evolution itself is just an observation. We can see there's biological change happening within nature and within, even if you look at human beings, that human beings have different colors and different physical traits in different parts of the world. That's evolution. But Darwin came up with a particular theory. Okay, he came up with a particular theory which is known as Darwinian evolution, which is that all of life, going back, came from one single origin. Okay, that's the first point. Secondly, the way that this first beginning of life, this first cell, grew into this tree of life is via a mechanism which is known as natural selection. Now you may not understand what that means, you may not have studied biology, but all you need to know at this point to understand the rest of this talk is that there is a difference between the two. Darwin came up with a particular history of evolution, which was a tree of life, and he came up with a particular mechanism of evolution. Now here's three things about Darwinian evolution which absolutely no one on earth can deny, unless you're insane. I mean, you literally have to be insane to deny this. Darwinian evolution, according to mainstream secular academics, is based on a probabilistic framework which has multiple assumptions which are being challenged, and there are disputes about its most fundamental ideas. If you don't take away anything from this lecture today, just remember this slide. Somebody, like for example, this guy standing here, he could give you a talk about Darwinian evolution, he could speak about biochemistry, genetics, anatomy, psychology, comparative biology, comparative anatomy, biochemistry, biogeography, linguistics, sociology, whatever. All of those fields can seem like an overwhelming tsunami of evidence that therefore it's true. But that's not the case. And the reason why it's not the case is because the same set of data can give rise to multiple theories. And we would be very foolish to think that only one theory can explain all the data. One of the examples that was given about how difficult it is to work out the history of evolution in the world, based on what we actually have, was an example given in the paper Science, which said, it's like trying to work out the plot of Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace with only 13 randomly selected pages. So if I took out the book, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, all the pages are blank except 13 pages, and I gave every single person in this room a copy, and I asked you to tell me the beginning and the end, which characters come in, which characters go out, what happened, how many different stories can you come up with? If there's 50 people in this room, how many stories can you come up with? At least 50. So why are we being told there's only one answer to the understanding of how life came on this earth and how it developed? And according to the National Science Foundation, and again, all these numbers and everything, they can be changed, but this just goes to show you how speculative it is. According to the National Science Foundation, a study published last year in May, 99.999% of species are missing. Not organisms, species. We don't have their fossils, we don't have their DNA, we don't have nothing. So all that we have instead in terms of Darwinian evolution is based on 0.0001% of the data. And even on that 0.0001% of the data, you can come up with multiple theories. If you, again, you didn't understand anything I said so far, then just ask me for this slide, read up what this is about. This is enough for you to understand it's not absolutely true.
Sorry, just a quick question.
Yes?
When you said 99.9% of species are missing, what are you actually talking about? You're talking about, you know, if you've got sort of a picture for a particular organism,
Yeah.
right, step by step by step.
Yeah.
You're talking about missing links.
No.
Okay.
Good question, very good question, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about species. Like complete species. We have no idea what they look like. They could be things weirder than dinosaurs, and we don't know what they look like. Okay? So that's why I use the term species, not organisms. And if you go and look at the study by National Science Foundation, they say species. They say there may have been 1 trillion species on Earth. Allahu Akbar, 1 trillion. And we have literally scraps. Yep.
How do they know they existed at the 99?
They're using genetic diversity and other sort of assumptions to try and come up with retrospective numbers of how many species may have existed, but that number could be completely wrong. I'm only telling you what they've concluded so far.
What you're saying is basically with 0.001% of data, they're
Yep.
drawing 100% of conclusions.
Which is induction.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a black swan problem, which is why it's speculative. Now, this, imagine, you know that scatter graph I drew in the beginning? This is a scatter graph on drugs. It's a scatter graph on steroids, right? Imagine all those fields. Imagine genetics, bioinformatics, biogeography, homology. Imagine all those different fields. Imagine how many different interpretations you can come up with. Darwin came up with universal common ancestry in the tree of life. Other people before Darwin, such as John Baptiste Lamarck, he came up with the hedge of life. Others have challenged the tree of life and come up with the web of life. Some believe in gradualism, some believe in rapid change, some believe in progression, some don't believe in progression. Whatever you make is bound to be probabilistic, is bound to be speculative. This is very, very important to understand. Now, just so stories. Does anyone want to know what just so stories are? Yes, right in the back. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Stories about animals.
Stories, yeah. Rudyard Kipling's book, Just So Stories. Okay? So, how did the elephant get its snout?
Drink the water and then crocodile got its trunk.
Yeah, that's it. And it kept pulling it, right? Now, that is a Just So story. It's a little children's story, you know, it's just a scenario. all of these stories which are made up about life on Earth 4 billion years ago, which no one, I mean, who was sitting on a chair 4 billion years ago and watching life develop? Right? So all of these scenarios about how this thing evolved, how that thing evolved, what you watch in documentaries, what you watch on TV and what you see on social media about, oh, this thing evolved into this and we did this, these are referred to by some evolutionary biologists as just so stories. Others, they try and pretend we've got the answer, we've got it worked out, this is how it evolved, this is how a human being evolved from a chimpanzee-like ancestor, we evolved bigger brains because of this, we this, that. These people say, people like Richard C. Lewontin, who is an evolutionary biologist, who is an atheist from Harvard University, him and others, and these are an extreme minority, but they're honest, they say these are just so stories. How on earth do you know what happened millions of years ago? These are just stories that you've made up. Yes, they may sound plausible, yes, they may sound scientific, yes, they may sound really, really interesting, but these are just so stories. One of the stories that was pointed out by Raymond Tallis was the evolution of colour. Men like the colour blue and women like the colour red. Now remember, it's very, very important for Darwinian biologists to try and explain everything about human behaviour as well, and our anatomy and our genetics in terms of Darwin's theory. So they said the reason why men like the colour blue, and because we got the mutation for the colour blue, is because the ones who evolved so that they the ones who went out to hunt and they liked the colour blue because the sky was blue, because the watering hole was blue, they were more likely to survive. Therefore, men generally like the colour blue today. Women, they cook the meat, they pick berries, they forage, they pick strawberries, so that's why they like the colour red. So they were explaining why men like the colour blue and women like the colour red using Darwin's theory. Raymond Tallis, who's an atheist scientist, he basically said this is nonsense. Because 150 years ago in Victorian Britain, women liked the colour blue and men liked the colour red. It was actually the other way around. And he points out, like other people do, that these scenarios, which sound plausible, are just stories that are made up in the past, which are extremely hard to verify in any way. Okay, another very important concept. One of the most important ideas, in fact, it is the central idea for Darwin's tree, is the assumption of homology. Homology is the assumption that similarities are due to common descent. So they look at similarity between a human being and a chimpanzee, and they say, look at this similarity, therefore, going back, they must have a common ancestor. Okay, the first thing to understand, even before this slide, is that's an assumption. Okay? It's not absolutely true, it's not a fact of reality, it's not a part of external furniture, it's just an assumption. And sometimes, some of these people, without realizing it, some of the people who are very zealous to try and I'm going to explain why in the end this scientific theory has become into a religion, why these people fall into circular reasoning without actually realizing it. They basically say, similarities are due to common descent. They say similarities are due to common descent. And then they say, look at these similarities. Therefore, this is due to common descent. What's the problem then? Maybe I have it written down. No, I don't have it written down. Okay, similarities are due to common descent. That's the fact. Similarities exist, therefore similarities are due to common descent. What's the problem then?
Is that an assumption?
No.
It's a fallacy.
It's a fallacy. Yeah, what type of fallacy is it? No, it's not an oxymoron, but it's a fallacy. Anybody else? It's circular reasoning. Your conclusions are already within your premises. Your conclusions are already within your argument. Okay, so first thing to understand, it's an assumption. It's not brute fact. Secondly, we know of a counterexample to this assumption of homology, which is known as homoplasy. For example, here we have two saber-toothed cats, one's from North America, one's from South America. They never bred, they never intermingled, they never met, they're from two different continents, yet if you look at their skeletons, you would say it has to be due to common ancestry. but it's not. This is known as homoplasy. Homoplasy has been observed in nature at a biochemical level, genetic level, anatomical level, sociological level, linguistic level, and this is something which no one can deny. We usually get told only half the story. We only get told homology, right? But homoplasy does actually exist. So we have this quagmire. How do we decide? Because if someone wants to make certain claims, not claims based on, if somebody says, I believe in it because it's probabilistic, I would really challenge them. I'd say to them, fine, yalla, fine, ahlan, enjoy yourself, no problem. But if someone says, no, it's true, then I would simply say to them, well, look what we have here. We have the wing of a bird and the wing of a bat. That's not due to common ancestry, that's homoplasy. We have the gene for echolocation. What's echolocation, young man?
So, it's like the thing inside the whales they used to find their prey.
Excellent. Very good. Bats have them as well, right? So we have echolocation in the bat and the whale, and we have the gene for that, yet this is not due to common ancestry, this is due to homoplasy. So if someone wants to make that claim with certainty, they're basically making the claim, similarities are due to common descent, except when they're not. If you want to make certain claims, that's basically what you're saying. If you want to stick to science, if you want to say it's probabilistic, it's based on assumptions, that's fine. But if someone wants to be certain, then what they're basically saying is similarities are due to common descent except when they're not, which is fine, because it just makes them look very intellectual. Here's an example of something related to our own species. We are told so often, look at the similarity between a human being and a chimpanzee. I mean, just look at that. But there are such similarities between human beings and other things which we're not related to, which we are so far away, even according to them, which we don't have in common with chimpanzees. For example, we have ants. Ants live in, what's their population, by the way, ants? Do they live in groups of 5, 10? Colonies of how much? Millions. And do you know in a colony, they're all brothers and sisters? Millions, and you have that colony. Okay, who's seen that video on YouTube where a guy, he goes and he puts mercury into an ant? Who's seen that? Raise your hand if you've seen that. Right. That amazing structure, show me a chimpanzee that can build a structure like that. Chimpanzees don't build their own buildings. And that interesting structure, that huge sky city, which is what it really is. You know, the guy hoses it with water and then you get that particular structure. Chimpanzees don't have that. So in terms of the millions of population that we live, chimpanzees live in maximum populations that they've been observed of 100. That's the maximum. But usually they live in about groups of 15. Okay, another thing. Ants go to war. Ants have fadayin, ants that go out to fight, which are supposed to die for the colony. Ants, they build bridges, right? Ants have funerals, they have slavery, they have economics, they have markets, they have all these things which are so similar to human beings. Chimpanzees do not. So in terms of our social behavior, we're actually very, very similar to ants. In terms of our linguistic behavior, we should be similar to chimpanzees, if their idea is actually true. Yet the closest thing in nature to human language is actually songbirds. So this is what the atheist evolutionary thinker and philosopher of biology Elliot Sober says in his book Evidence in Evolution, published by Cambridge University. Both of the following thoughts are naive. Humans and chimps must share a common ancestor because they're so similar, and humans and mushrooms must have arisen independently because they're so different. Within the probabilistic framework, there is no must in either case. What I want you guys to realize is this. If somebody says, do you know what? I believe human beings and chimpanzees have a common ancestor because I believe in this based on a probabilistic framework, which has some assumptions which are being challenged, and I know it's disputable. I would never challenge someone like that. I would say to them, welcome. You're actually believing in something and you're being honest about it. But if someone says, I believe it to be true, and I want you to believe in it because it's based on evidence, then I would say, wait, hang on a second. You're going against mainstream secular understanding of evolutionary biology, which is actually what we have. There is a huge difference between the way evolutionary biology is actually pursued and the way it's perceived. There's a huge dichotomy. When you hear certain people, you think, oh my God, it's absolutely true. When you go to academic literature, you find these sort of things. This is very, very important for us to understand. Some assumptions. How long do I have, by the way, before Maghrib?
Q&A is going to carry on after Maghrib.
Sure, but how long do I have before Maghrib?
5 minutes.
Okay, that's good. We're about to finish it. Okay. There are some assumptions. Remember I said probabilistic framework, then I said assumptions. Okay. This is extremely important to understand. In Darwin's book, The Origin of Species, he says something, and remember, when I'm reading this out, remember the black swan problem and remember the scatter graph problem. Because Charles Darwin was a very honest man. Even though his ideas, we may not agree with them, but he was an honest man. He said, long before having arrived at any part of my work, a crowd of difficulties will have occurred to the reader. Some of them are so grave that to this day I can hardly reflect on them without being staggered. These are difficulties for his own theory. But to the best of my judgment, the greater number are only apparent, and only those that are real are not, I think, fatal to my theory. So, the main thing he's saying here is he does believe his theory to be correct, but he does recognize there's problems. And interestingly enough, those problems that he highlighted 153 years ago, or 155 years ago, are actually more now than then. The problems actually got bigger, and the problems are in the areas where he highlighted himself. Yet we are not told of these problems. We have some assumptions of Darwinism, gradualism, tree of life, selfish gene. Gradualism as an assumption, this is being challenged many, many times by mainstream paleontologists, people who study fossils. The tree of life, very famous idea, very famous, is taught as a fact. People like Carl Woese, any book on evolutionary biology that you pick up at university level, you're going to come across his name. He's an atheist evolutionary biologist. He says it's the web of life, not the tree of life. Craig Venter, brilliant evolutionary biologist. He won the National Medal of Science in America, again an atheist. He doesn't believe in the tree of life, he believes in the bush of life. Selfish gene, we are only there to survive and reproduce. Well, the problem here is, I've just put up these pictures of these children, and pretty much everyone here wants to help them. Why do we have empathy? Why do we have sympathy? Why do we have these actual things? These are big problems for Darwinism. This is something we can carry on in the Q&A. According to Oxford evolutionary biologist Dennis Noble, all the central assumptions of neo-Darwinism have been disproven. Now, let me just warn you guys, this is a minority view. And this man, he's an atheist, he's an evolutionary biologist, he still believes in human-chimp ancestry and he still believes in other parts of Darwin's tree. But in terms of the mechanism, he says all of the assumptions have been disproven. Disputes. There's at least 3 fully fledged alternatives to Darwinian evolution which exist in the literature, the scientific literature. If it was absolutely true, why would we have 3 completely different alternatives? And this is a project called the Third Way of Evolution, which has atheist evolutionary biologists from across the world who don't believe in God, and nor do they believe in Darwin's theory. They're trying to come up with a third way. This is the last slide, and this I think is extremely important, and inshallah we can carry on in the Q&A. There is an incredible amount of sociological pressure to push out Darwinian evolution as a fact. A huge amount of effort is put at a political level, at a social media level, and even at a popular level. Why? The clue is in a book which was published just a few months ago called Darwinism as Religion, published by Oxford University by an atheist philosopher of science. And it gives it away to you in the cover, Darwinism as Religion. Richard Dawkins wrote in his book in the 1980s, Darwin's theory allowed him to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. Now we know that to be false because Darwin himself didn't agree with that. But the reason why there's so much pressure and so much disinformation about this particular theory is because according to secular mainstream historians and secular mainstream philosophers and secular mainstream biologists, this is the only scientific theory in history which has become into a religion, into a political system, into an ethical system, into a system which has forgeries, and a system which you cannot criticize within science without being labeled a heretic. Here are two examples. Masayoshi Nai, he's an atheist evolutionary biologist from Japan. His formulas are taught in every single biology textbook at a university level in the world. Every single biology textbook in the world at a university level, you're going to come across this guy, Masayoshi Nai. He says Charles Darwin is a god. He didn't mean it in a good way. He said, I cannot challenge Charles Darwin because he doesn't believe in Darwin's theory of evolution. I cannot challenge him because he's become into a god and this scientific theory has become into a religion. Lynn Margulis, she was another atheist evolutionary biologist from America. She won again the National Medal of Science in America. Her theory of end symbiogenesis is taught in every single university in the world. She said history is going to remember Darwinists, people who believe in Darwinian evolution, as an Anglo-Saxon religion. These are her words. She's an atheist, but this is her words. There is an incredible amount of sociological pressure to push this out as a fact, which is why, going back, just to end, I started off on the dog example. Yeah? You have this dog, it's scary, you think it's going to bite, it hasn't got any teeth. This impression that we've got this theory and it's disproven Adam and Eve and it's disproven God and it's disproven this and it's disproven that is being pushed by people who want to get rid of religion, and those same people, when people within their own communities who are atheists, who are evolutionary biologists, like these people, when they challenge them, they call us creationists and they call these people who are atheists secular creationists. Every single thing that we've learned today, if there's any message I want to give to you guys, is basically this. Whenever a challenge comes up, the cure to a doubt is to ask. There's too many people in our community who just stay silent, who don't ask questions, who don't bother learning. Now inshallah in the Q&A we're going to cover any questions you have. Anything good I've said is from Allah, any mistake is from myself. Jazakallah khair for listening.